a bundles path, and today we're covering the balance changes that came with this year's Season 8 update, and the effects on the game. Starting with assault rifles, the Man-O-War has received a minor flinch reduction. This gives it the second lowest flinch out of all the assault rifles, bested only by the LK24. This won't affect the gun much, since it already has one of the best accuracies out of all the ARs in the game, and it won't be a popular pick anytime soon due to how punishing the slow fire rate is. It still can perform well if you're accurate enough, so here's the build we recommend if you really want to be using it. The Peacekeeper Mk2 received changes to the rear grips. The sturdy grip tape reduces flinch less, which kind of doesn't matter much, since the firm grip tape is better in just about every scenario. And the firm grip tape is getting buffed as well, reducing flinch by an additional 10%. So the Peacekeeper has effectively received a flinch buff, and it might see more use since the CBR is getting nerfed, and here's a build if you want to try it out. Speaking of which, the nerf we have been waiting for over a year at this point, the CBR4. The bullet spread accuracy has gone from 4.71 to 4.26 on the 11-point scale. This is identical to the base bullet spread accuracy of guns like the QQ9 and its Switchblade. The flinch has also been noticeably increased up to 1.1 from 0.8, which is worse than most close quarter submachine guns. These nerfs don't sound too significant, but it is enough to bring the CBR from top tier meta option to off meta viable. This is primarily because you can no longer have fast strafing speed and good bullet spread accuracy at the same time anymore. You can try to build for bullet spread accuracy to offset the nerfs, but you will lose on strafing speed, which is not ideal for a flex weapon. And you can try to keep the strafing speed, but you won't have enough bullet spread accuracy to reliably take longer ranged gunfights. On top of that, flinch will still be an issue, and some players might even swap out quick fix for toughness, which will massively tank their survivability. While the CBR4 will still be an easy to use weapon, it will no longer be the best flex weapon in the game. We will make a separate video on what guns you can use instead of a CBR4 very soon. Another SMG that's getting nerfed is the Razorback, specifically for the rapid fire perk, which now significantly hurts the first two damage ranges and bullet spread accuracy. This hurts both its close range and long range performances, as it is much harder to make use of the 3-tap range and ability to take longer ranged gunfights. The Razorback will still be a decent mid-range SMG option, but there are just way better alternatives out there, like the PP-19 Bison, with very low recoil and bigger magazine capacity. But if you still want to use it, here is a build for it. The Fennec's range has received a minor nerf, and the flinch has been increased as well. This won't affect the gun's performance too much, although it will be less effective outside of close quarters, especially with the bullet impact changes this season. The build we recommend is still the same from the last season. The H340 has received a sprint to fire reduction of 20 milliseconds, which brings it more in line with the other SMGs. However, the inconsistent close range performance still leaves much to be desired. Moving on to the marksman rifles, the Kilo Bolt action's reload time has been reduced by 15%. This means that when paired with a stopping power reload, its reload time is more in line with the SPR208. While this is a welcome change, this isn't the biggest marksman rifle change, as the Mk2's ADS time has been reduced to 390 milliseconds, and you can reduce it all the way down to 292 milliseconds, which is only slightly slower than the Kilo Bolt action without stopping power. This, combined with its already good hitboxes and stability, means that it is the best single-fire marksman rifle for multiplayer, as it will now be even better at quick scoping when built for ADS time. In terms of actual sniper rifles though, the XPR50 has received a nerf to the ghost stock, reducing flinch by 5% less. This won't change the gun at all in multiplayer since you shouldn't be using it in the first place, and in Battle Royale, minus 30% flinch is still plenty, so the build for it remains unchanged. On the pistols, the Dobvra's visual recoil has been reduced, making it a lot less obstructive when firing, which was actually its main downside, so it should be much more usable now, despite having no actual statistical changes. In terms of operator skills, the tactical redeployment's duration has been extended by 3 seconds, and the recharge time has been reduced by 30 seconds. This makes it more useful, although it still won't see much use because it is just incredibly niche. The Equalizers, on the other hand, have received a sizable damage buff, reducing shots to kill for most of its tactical ranges. This allows it to kill even faster than it already did, although you won't exactly notice it since you will be spraying and praying with it anyway. Moving on to the throwables, the C4's explosive radius was reduced by half a meter, which means that it will be slightly harder to get kills with it. But it is still extremely strong for quickly clearing corners and holding down areas, so it will still be a pretty common pick, unfortunately. The Molotov got the same treatment to the radius as well, making it slightly less effective at area denial, although it is still a very strong option for objective game modes like hardpoint and domination. So you can expect the Molotov spam to continue. The UAV's duration has been upped by 2 seconds, which won't affect the performance much, and will still remain a stable pick due to being able to identify the enemy spawns. The only perk that got changed is survival training. The cooldown has been reduced by 10 seconds, which will allow you to make use of it more often, and will be a very good option for those who really hate having to deal with anime tacticals. The last set of changes this season involved the bullet impact mechanic from last season, in which quite a few weapons have had their bullet impact values adjusted, specifically the higher damage weapons and attachments that affect damage. But the weapons that benefit the most from these changes are the 3-shot kill assault rifles, which have similar bullet impact as most light machine guns, along with the Odin and PKM, which have sniper level bullet impacts. This makes them harder to challenge along the ranges, as it will be harder to stay on target with the increased flinch. The Holger 26 also got a slight nerf from this, dealing 1.1 times flinch instead of last season's 1.3 times, so it won't be as oppressive when pre-firing, but it'll still be super strong. We will also be making a video explaining the bullet impact mechanic in more detail. And I think that covers everything about this season's changes. Comment down below what you think about these changes, and as always, make sure you subscribe. Go and talk.